Today we're going to take a look at the W-4 and figuring out how to look up income tax to withhold on somebody's check based on their W-4. Now, we did look at how to do it if the employee filled out a W-4 from 2019 or before, and that showed how many allowances they had, whether they were filing married or single, and how many allowances they had. And then you, the payroll person, would have to know how often that they got paid and what their gross wages were for that paycheck, and you could look it up in the wage bracket tables. Here we're going to look at employees that filled out a W-4 form in 2020 or after. So here we have name and address, social security number of the employee, and they could simply check off one of these three boxes. Either single or married filing separate is the first box, married filing joint or qualifying widower is the second box, and head of household is the third box. These represent filing statuses from their income tax return that they do in the spring. And there are 5 filing statuses that they could use if they're filling out their income statement. And this is should be the filing status that they expect to use for their 2020 income tax return. Okay, if that is it, if the employee only has one job for the household, so whether they're single or married, there's only one job, and this is it for the household, then they're done at that point. Okay, they just simply hand in the W-4, and we will have some examples that look at how to look it up if you've just got the filing status. If the person has 2 jobs or more for the household, whether it's, if it's a husband and wife and they each have a job, that's 2 jobs for the household, even though each one only has 1. Or perhaps a single person that has 2 or more part-time jobs or whatever like that. Okay, so if there's 2 jobs or more for the household, then we need to take a look at step 2, multiple jobs or spouse works. Once you've decided to do this part, you can have 3 different choices. You can use the Excel little calculator estimator. Okay, you can use the multiple jobs worksheet on page 3, or if there are 2 jobs, only 2 jobs, not 3 or more, but just 2, and the 2 jobs are roughly equal, like within $10,000 a year of each other, then you could use this third step, which is to just click a check mark in that box, and then you're done. Okay, so you would have your filing status and your check mark if there's 2 jobs for the household and they're relatively similar. Okay, and then if there are dependents, so if you're going to claim children or other dependents on your tax return, you can multiply the number of children under age 17, multiply that by 2,000, and any other kinds of dependents, you could, however many of those there are, times 500. So that might be a dependent that's 17 and older, or it might be like an elderly parent that's dependent, something like that. Okay, so then you'll get those 2 numbers, add them together, and that goes in line 3. Step 4 is other kinds of adjustments. Letter A is other income that aren't from jobs. so that aren't going to have a W-2. So maybe if you invest a lot in stocks and bonds and stuff, and you have a lot of interest and dividends, and nothing was withheld from those, or if you have some kind of retirement income and nothing was withheld from that, or not enough was withheld, then you can enter that extra amount of income on line 4A. Okay? Deductions. On your tax return, there is normally a standard deduction based on your filing status. So a married filing jointly filing status would have over $24,000 of a standard deduction. This is an amount you get to subtract from your wages and other income before tax is calculated. Now, some people have a lot of extra deductions. More, if you were married filing jointly, you had more than $24,000 worth of deductions. Then you can fill out a Schedule A for itemized deductions when you do your tax return. If you are in that classification, which not a huge number of people are, then you can put your deductions, your extra deductions here. Okay? There's also letter C, 4C, extra withholding. Enter any additional tax you want withheld each pay period. Maybe you have your own business or something. If you have your own business, you're supposed to pay in quarterly estimated tax payments. But if you didn't want to do that, you want your job to withhold extra to help cover that little business you have on the side, you could do that. Okay, and you could tell them how much to put here, and it would be added in and taken out of your paycheck. The employee would sign and date this. Here's some instructions on page 2. Page 3, the top part is about the multiple jobs worksheet. So if there are more than 2 jobs, here's a section here for how to cover that. If there's only 2 jobs, but they're not kind of equal. Remember we said if there's just 2 jobs, but they're kind of, you know, within $10,000 or something from each other, you can just check this box and you're done. But let's say one is a lot more than the other one. Well, then you need to go to this multiple jobs worksheet. And here's if you have those 2 jobs, okay, then you need to fill out this line. If there's 3 or more jobs for the household, then you need to fill out those. Line 3 is enter the number of pay periods. And line 4, you take whatever is the extra jobs divided by the number of pay periods. And that line, then it says you're going to enter that on step 4C, which is this step right here. Okay, the extra withholding. Okay, this step 4B deductions worksheet. This is if you were one of those people that had extra deductions above and beyond the standard deductions that most people get on their tax return. If you're one of those people, you would fill out that part of the worksheet to come up with a number that goes on step 4B. The last page of the W-4 form has these tables on here. And so we have a married filing jointly, a single, and a head of household table. And the rows are for the higher paying job and the annual salary of the higher paying job. And the columns are for the annual salary of the lower paying job. So we're going to use that if we are doing one of these situations here, where we have 2 jobs, but they're not necessarily similar. So one is high and one is low. then we're going to use that. So if I have, if it's married filing joint and the spouse, one spouse's has 38,000, that's the higher wage, then we would go, here's the higher wage, that's the rows, here's 30 to 39,999, so the 38 would fit in there and we'd go across this row. And then if the spouse, the other spouse had a job that was 18,000 or 19,000 or something, that fits in this column. Okay, and we would go down this column, and where we went across the row and where they intersect, which is 2100, then that would end up being the number that we would put right here on line 1. Okay, and we would divide that by how many payments there were to get line 4 on the worksheet, which would then go on line 4C. Once we have this whole page filled out, we are finally ready to actually see how much FIT should be withheld. We can take this information and use that IRS Excel worksheet and punch the stuff in there, or we can go ahead and do it ourselves using the tables. Either way, all of this needs to be filled out if there's anything to fill out. Once again, if there's only one wage for the household and there's no dependents, then we can simply check the filing status and the employee is good to go. Okay? If the employee is married and or themselves have 2 jobs, but they're both similar, then they just fill out this filing status and check this box and they're good to go. If there's 2 jobs for the household but they're different, then we need to fill out this worksheet here, at least line 1, 3, and 4, and use this table to see what number, okay, goes on there, and that would go in 4C. Okay, if there are dependents, this step 3 needs to be taken care of. If there's other additional income that's not from jobs that you want to have covered in the withholding, if the employee say has retirement income, but there's already some being withheld from their retirement income check, then this doesn't need to be filled out. But if they're getting a retirement check and nothing's being withheld on it, and it's a significant amount, then yes, you would want to fill that out. We need to make sure that this job withholding helps to cover anything else that it needs to cover. If there's extra deductions beyond the standard deduction, then 4B needs to be filled out. There's extra withholding. Either it's extra withholding from down here, or it's extra withholding that the employee just happens to want. The employee can just say, well, you know, I got this little side business. I need an extra $50 per paycheck withheld to cover that. Okay, so the employee can just put a number in there if they want. Okay, so once anything is filled out that needs to be filled out, we're ready